Good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha Mirabal with Melco's application team. I'm doing your DesignShop Talk today to see what questions you might have, try to get them answered. If you have questions while we're live, both on Facebook and YouTube, you can type them in the comments. Don't send them privately. I don't see those. So type them in on the comments. And if you see me looking off to the side, I've got a second monitor set up with the two platforms. So let me quick check and make sure they're both up. I see Facebook. So yeehaw. YouTube, wake up, there it is. Cool. All right, so I got both platforms. Excuse me. All right, excellent. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with a few questions we had ahead of time. If you, like I said, if you have questions, type them in on the comments and I'll try to get them answered for you. So first one was, how do you troubleshoot occasional slingshots on an XT machine, please? So the XTs and XTS, they're cable driven, right? So they've got these two wires for the trimmer system back there. So generally when you have a slingshot, it's a misselection, meaning it's when it goes to cut, there's three threads down there. There's a bobbin thread, there's a thread on one side of the top thread and one on the other. Kind of too much info, but now you know. So it's got to cut the correct two. If it cuts the wrong side of that top thread, that's when you get a slingshot. So I find understanding what's going on kind of helps troubleshoot those sorts of things. So if it's misselecting, you can have a few different things going on. The first place I would start is clean it really well. Do all your maintenances. Clean the trimming the trimmer area. Make sure you don't have any dust. Depending on which model you have, they have different oiling requirements. Do all of that, okay? Because if it's jamming or slowing down, that might be causing that misselection. Another thing to look at would be your active feed settings to make sure they're not, which way would it be? Not too loose, right? So if it's creating too much of a loop, thread loop down there, the selector might be picking the wrong thread. All right, so we do have a link there for troubleshooting your slingshots. And again, what slingshots generally mean is it does a trim, and then when it pulls the needle up, it yanks the thread out of the needle. That's what a slingshot is. So that's where I would start off with, is clean and do your maintenance on the trimming module. In your hook area, make sure you have no threads, no dust. If it requires oiling, depending on the trimmer, do that. So that's where I would start. What do you do when thread still feeds freely, even though the pinch roller is down? All right, so I pulled up beforehand and now I lost it. Where is it? Right here. Okay, so I pulled up the parts manual. So actually, I'm going to go back to how I got to this so you guys can see it. Because I've had a few questions this week of people asking about how they find out the different names of parts and things like that. So I'm just, for this discussion of, why the thread is running freely, all the parts are essentially the same. So if you go into the EMT16 or whatever machine, I just always go to the newest one, unless it's unique to that machine. The parts manual is down here, and what's fun about this is you can navigate through it. So to find names of parts. So when people go, that black thingy that's behind the thingy, okay. Trying to figure out what those are. This kind of helps get you that nomenclature. So when you navigate through it, you can click through and get to the individual parts. I just wanted a close-up of this. So these are those little black covers that cover up the lower roller. And then you've got depending on the machine, those are red or black. So the little thread feed rollers. So when you close this down, it's supposed to be where the thread's locked. So when you pull it, it doesn't pull, right? So if that's not happening, the question was why? What do I need to look at? A few things. Make sure this black cover here is installed correctly. If it's not installed correctly, it's going to prevent that top roller from coming down correctly. And, when I do my maintenance over there, that's usually what I see, is these black covers not put back on right, and why that happens. You can also look, is your lever itself closing down all the way? So is the lever broken? There are parts inside. Now, if that's the case, then you'd have to get it fixed. Which, while it is, you could do it yourself. It's not hard, but it's not easy either. But anyway, so that's where I would look at. Make sure these covers are installed correctly. Make sure that the roller, both rollers are correct. Another thing is to look at the parts themselves. So the little red or black roller and then this lower roller down here. Here, I'll show you the roller. Where is it? This guy. So this roller, make sure it doesn't have a groove in it. So these are consumables or wear items. So if you've got a groove in that, it's going to pull straight through. So you can just replace that. I believe the maintenance kit has a spare of these. I might be mistaken on that. If not, you can always get them from Melco. Easy enough. The techs usually carry them as well. Okay. But that's where I would look, is look at for grooves on the parts, see if you need to replace the parts, either the lower or upper roller. Make sure this black cover is installed correctly. So those two rollers, this cover. And then all else fails, maybe you might have a part in here broken. This is the internals of it. Okay. We have a question typed in on YouTube. So it says, I had a bobbin issue at the end of 40,000 stitch. Is there any way to start a few steps back to fix a frayed looking section? Yeah, so just hit the, as long as you haven't unhooped it and it's still there, you'll go ahead and fix your bobbin, fix your needle, fix your colors, whatever it wants. Typically, I would suggest cleaning up your item first. So whether it's going to be, you know, picking stitches out using, I call it a hair dryer. It's actually a, oh my gosh, a heat gun, using a heat gun, things like that. So clean it up so you don't have a whole lot of stuff sticking out when you go back over it. And then you can hit the backup key. So on the keypad, so where's the keypad? I have a picture of one there. So right here, I call that the backup key. Technically. Anyway, that goes back one stitch at a time. So if you just hold that down, eventually you'll hear the machine go beep beep or something like that. And once it starts beeping, you can let go of it and it'll just keep backing up. When you're ready for it to stop backing up, you hit the red button, stop, and it'll stop, and then you can start it at that point. So yeah, you can absolutely go back. You can also, if you know what stitch you need to go back to in the OS, you can go Tools, Settings, Move, and in the OS, you can actually tell it what stitch or which color number to go to and tell it to move to that, and it'll go there. Okay? Okay. So we got you a link to the keypad functions as well. All right. I had a question. I'm getting a lot of flagging on a left chest logo. Do I need to sew it at slower speeds or something? No, I find my machine's happy space is 1,000, so you might try speeding it up. Now, flagging, so why does that happen? So I know this particular person uses a lot of mighty hoops, I believe. So one thing to consider with that is mighty hoops are heavier. So if you're sewing with a really light garment, the mighty hoops might actually bounce depending on the stitch direction. So I have seen people weigh them down just to stop that. Another thing to look at is your presser foot. I highlighted it here. You said you're using a presser foot of 4. That seems a little high to me. You know, basically, if the needle goes in and as it's coming out, if it drags along there and is not held, the fabric's not held down, what's going to happen as it's dragging, it's going to lift up your fabric. So it's going to cause that flagging effect, right? So your presser foot needs to touch the garment, because when the needle's coming out, the presser foot's flat and stationary on there. So at that case, it's going to hold it there so that the needle it holds the fabric still, right? So I would look at speeding it up, honestly. 800 seems slow to me. And the presser foot, if you're already getting ghosting on there, then presser foot of 4 should be fine. Basically, you want it to touch. You can always use a topper as well to help with some of that. Another thing that, honestly, I'm a little bit confused. When you say you have a backup that says fine, but yours is not, that's what doesn't make any sense to me. It should sew fine regardless. So I actually phoned a friend to ask ahead of time to see if they had any other ideas. And the only other thing we could come up with would be to, if you're sewing it too tight, and which is causing the needle to drag, it might be picking up things. picking up your fabric, causing that flagging. So maybe using a larger needle or a sharp. Again, you shouldn't have to, I wouldn't think. So honestly, I would probably up your active feet a little bit, maybe lower your presser foot, and then try it with the hoops that come with the machine, just to see if it's a hoop driven issue, right? I do know some of the there are different arms for the Mighty Hoops, and some of them have the Mighty Hoops higher than the arm of the machine, significantly higher. So those little brackets tend to cause the hoops to flag more than necessary. So that might be another thing to look at, is how high do your hoops sit above the arm of the machine. Okay. Corbin, I'm glad these are helpful for you. Thanks. Alex on YouTube, how do you make a trim or border around images? Okay, so let's go to DesignShop. I'm going to say no. I'm going to go open a file. I got my C drive, designs. Let's pick something weird shaped. I don't want to do a chicken. Let's do a hot air balloon. All right, so I've got a design. So if you want to put a border on it, how do we do this? So select everything, go to, I assume you want to turn this into a patch. That's going to be, you guys can type in if that's not what you're looking to do, and I can kind of adjust what I'm doing. So I select everything, go tools, object, generate basting, primer stitch. Go to the primer, and you can change this however close you want your border to your shape. I'm going to leave it at 50. So that will kind of give you an overall shape. Now we don't want it to be a fill like this. We want a border. So I'm going to take this guy and this thing right here, select, not that one, this one. Change element from one type to another. If you click on that, you can tell it, all right, let's make that a single line center. And do you want to add it? So leave the fill or get rid of the fill. So you want to replace it. I'm going to say replace, and poof, I have a border. Okay, that might be too far for you. If that's too far for you, you can let's do it again. Tools, generate primer, go to primer. Let's make that 20. That's better. So I'm going to delete one of them because I don't need two. I'm going to change from one element to another, say single line, replace. Now I've got a border around my image. So it's pretty quick and super fast to do, and you can do that with any shape you want. Okay, so with any design, whether it's text, so I can do the same thing with text. So if I want to do like a key fob or something. I can't spell my name today. That's cute. Another way you can get to that is right click, operations, generate basting primer, change it to the primer. I'm going to say 20. Okay. Then I don't need both of those guys. Where is it? There it is. I'm going to delete one. This time I'll show you another trick. Rather than clicking on this guy, holding the control on your keyboard is replace, the same as replace under this menu. Shift is add. So if I hold control key down and click on single line center, which is this button right there, it switches whatever that was to what I clicked it to. All right. So that's another way. All right. So what other questions do you guys have? So Alex, hopefully that helped. Or if that wasn't what you're wanting to know, let me know. Awesome. I'm glad. Excellent. All right. So let's see. Letters not sewing level. So I noticed you're using the mini micro font. So the micro fonts are specifically, some of them are digitized in such a manner to make things, to compensate for push-pull effects. So you'll notice under the text, if you go to the micro, so notice this, you can even see it in the code sheets, like the C is a little different in size, the A is a little shorter. That's because in the sewing is side to side mostly on that A, whereas for the B it sews up and down. So remember, when you're sewing, things are going to narrow up, right? So those are specifically digitized for the small letters to account for that pull effect when you're sewing. All right. So you can always go adjust it manually if you want. So if you're using it outside the bounds of the font, you can always go, all right, I want this letter to be taller, and I can stretch it to be taller. Or I want it to go below the baseline a little. So to get it off the baseline, I know I showed this last week, but I'll show it again. If you select the text, select the X on there. So now I have a box around the letter I want to move. Now I can hold the control key down and drag it. Now, do you want to position it there? No. But just to give you the idea, once it's there, now I can drag it side to side, but notice it's not letting me go up and down again. So to go back up and down again, I have to hit the control key to move it off the baseline. And then I can move it around. So you can adjust things that way if you're using them outside of the bounds. You can always go into properties and do under advanced. Is it advanced? No, it's not under advanced. I think I've officially lost track of where I am. There it is. Lettering compensation. So it's under compensation. So if you select that, click on compensation, you have lettering compensation, and that'll also adjust things for pull compensation with your lettering. That's best. I would use it mostly for true type stuff, but you can use it for whatever you want. Okay. Well, let's see. When I put my bobbin back in after daily maintenance, I don't hear a click like I used to. Should I be concerned about not hearing the bobbin click in? Generally, if you're holding the little tab that you pull the bobbin out with, you're not going to hear it click. So the only way you're going to hear it click is if you have it flat, you're not holding that tab up, and you just click it in. Should you be concerned? I don't know if it's stuck in there, no, but I always like that tactile feel in here. So you can the bobbins are really cheap. You can always get others and just swap them out just in case that spring is getting a little loose. Tyrone, I don't know. So let's see, any other on topic things? So digitizing, you guys want to talk about. I'm scanning through questions to make sure I didn't miss anything. Doesn't look like I did. Yeah, that's all the stuff I had ahead of time. So what else did you guys want to chat about? I don't. Today was a little bit light. That's all right. Had a long discussion last week, which was fun. Anyone got any fun plans for the weekend? I'm just wasting time in case someone has questions and want to type some in. I'm getting my husband to go to a Learn to Row clinic, so that'll be fun. Once he gets approved to be on a boat, maybe we can row together. So that'll be cool. With like the sculling boats, sweep. Scull and sweep. All right. I don't see any other questions coming in. So I guess I shall call it a day. And we will be back next week. Next week I'm aiming for a Friday. So again, I tend to post these little cover sheet pictures in a bunch. Hi, Lorena. I tend to post these pictures in the different groups on Facebook asking for questions. You can always email applications at MoCo. And, if you don't have Facebook, that's cool. And we'll get them added there. But let us know what you want to learn, what do you want to talk about, what questions you have, and we'll try to get them answered, help you be successful. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Like I said, I think Saturday I'm going to go row in the morning with my husband, hopefully. So praying weather cooperates. My kids started all their sports events this week from school, and oh my gosh, Florida weather in the afternoon is joyful. Thunderstorms, so half their stuff's been canceled. So, all right. Well, you guys enjoy your weekend. I will talk to you next week. Have fun sewing, and until then, bye.